Hi there, it is Judas. Um, Sorry that the lighting isn't as good as it normally is. I recently had a lamp blow. I'm doing what I can here, but hello, it is me. Today I am here to do a little video on my experience getting a bilateral salpingectomy for the purposes of sterilization. So no pregnancy, no babies ever, as a trans guy specifically. And quickly before I will give a quick little transition update because there was briefly a video up on a decision that I had made that did not end up lasting more than a couple of weeks. So, don't worry, this isn't like a trans guy specific experience. If you're not a trans guy and you're thinking about getting a bilateral salp, this will still be relevant to you. But I will have information about this experience as a trans guy if that is relevant to you, or as a non-binary person, or whatever the fuck. So, I am 5 days post-op today. So yeah, I'm going to go over the experience of getting the surgery and what every day has been like so far, because it's been very different every day. And I think it's going to be that way for a little bit. So, first off, the little transition update. I briefly had a video up and some posts up that were saying that I was going to go off of tea for a while. I skipped one dose. And then I went back on. I was just being impulsive. I've been going through a lot. And I thought I was losing more hair than I honestly was. I needed to redo my roots because I dyed my hair black. And if your hair is lighter than your current hair color, especially if you switch your hairstyle to be a middle part, you look like you're balding. And I have lost hair, but it is not a ton. And I talked to my, excuse me, I talked to my doctor about it, and she would prefer me to do the minoxidil method if I decide to going forward. But by the time I made an appointment with her to talk to her and everything, I had already been like, no, actually, getting weaker, losing more muscle, and watching my body fat pattern redistribute, I don't think that will make me happy either. It also had a lot to do with my frustrations with stuff in the gym and things, and trying to run away from that, and it's not the answer. It's just not. So, it was just a moment of like panic, and overwhelm, and also, I do think the birth control that I was on until now, because I don't need it anymore, I think it was quite strongly affecting me emotionally, because the last time I was using that birth control, I've used it multiple times. I was using the Nuva ring. I was also on Lexapro, so I had a bit of padding for my mental health, from how the birth control would affect me, whereas now I'm raw dogging it. So, yeah. Carol. Yes. The process, basically, I had, whenever I made the appointment with my, so I specifically made an appointment with my hormone transition doctor, to start birth control, because I messaged her that I was interested in it, and she was like, yes, I can prescribe it to you, but we do have to set up an appointment, because I just like working with her more than my primary care physician. We just have better connection. So when we were talking about it, she, when I mentioned that, oh my god, yes, I would love to be sterile one day, she was like, all right, just let me know, because I know what hospital I like to send my trans patients to. And I was like, I mean, I don't know if they would approve me, because they never want to sterilize anyone, and like, I don't know about like what it would cost me outside of insurance and stuff, but for real? And she's like, yeah. So I was just like over the moon. And I thought about it during our appointment, and I was like, girl, actually, like, send that referral in, because like, it's a hospital. They're gonna take forever to schedule with me. It's gonna be like months out, so I'll have time to save money. Anyways, that was only a couple months ago, and pretty quickly I got a call to set up an appointment for a consultation. And in my head, I was like, yeah, let me just go through with it. Let me just ride this, because I'm ready. I was definitely like, ooh, surgery, time off of the gym. Ooh, I don't like that, but I only got to do it once, and it was really just like, I don't know how much this is gonna cost me. But the more time that went on, the more I was like, well, I'm already in debt for a heart stress test that I did. I live in a state that made it illegal for me to get an abortion, so more and more I was thinking, like, I'm just gonna go get it done and figure it out later because the hospital has plenty of money outside of mine and we'll figure it out. So, um, I got an appointment and it was at an OBGYN. So I went to an OBGYN as a trans guy. Now, obviously, I'm a very comfortable trans guy in all things. So I'm not the best like trans guy sterilization experience for someone who's like maybe like insecure masculine, because I'm just like, yeah, I'm not a woman's doctor and my voice is like this. And I mean, you know, I've been presenting a little more feminine lately, so who knows what people thought I was. I don't care. Unless I'm trying to figure out which bathroom people might want me in on any given day. That's the only time I care. In that case, I'm just trying not to get my ass kicked. But anyways, uh, yeah, it was a little weird. It did feel a little weird being at an OBGYN, and I did have, especially because, like, I think I was tired that day, so I was dressed pretty casual, which tends to look more masculine. So I think I was a little self-conscious, but I was like, I've been, listening to trans people's stories since I was like 17 or 18 at least. So I definitely had heard other trans men especially talk about their experiences getting gynecological health stuff taken care of and, advice and supporting each other. And it was just like, I came into it with a very like, I'll have some feelings, but it's okay. Your health is important. So I had a consultation where I failed to be a liar, and because I was like, I don't have any problems with my uterus that I'm aware of. I always had really easy periods when I had them. Haven't had any for years because of T, and I've never had any medical issues because of my uterus. But please take it from me. I really want a hysterectomy. And they were like, he said maybe in the future if I have medical issues, which made me quite literally chuckle out loud because there's someone very close to me and very dear to my heart who I watched almost die in the hospital from complications from their uterus, and the doctors refused to take it out. But okay, sure, yeah. Sure, you'll take it out if I have problems. You won't leave it in until it kills me. I'm real convinced. But anyways, so I was irritated, but he went over bilateral salpingectomy with me. He was like, this is going to be way quicker to recover from. It's way less risky. And you will also get the, of course, benefit of lowering your ovarian cancer risk. All the doctors are always like happy to tout that. And yes, it matters to me, but also like my mom had cervical cancer. So if we could take more out, that would be cool. There's other things that can get cancer in there. Just take more out. But when we went over the sterilization part, I was like, this is absolutely vital to me. I can't get pregnant. I can't. And he explained to me that the failure rate for specifically a bilateral salpingectomy where they cut the tubes and then remove them, so there's no connection, they don't band them, they don't cut them and then leave them dangling in there, they take them out, the failure rate is almost zero, and the cases that are reported of failure, part of it is statistical noise of people reporting that they got a bilateral salpingectomy, but they actually got a ligation, like it banded or something like that, or maybe even in the hospital, something was mixed up, they were given the wrong procedure, which is why I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to verify 8 million times that this is what is happening and what is done on the day of hospital. Because if I go through this to get just a tubal like banding or whatever, I would lose my shit. But he said that's part of the problem. And then the cases where a pregnancy did happen, it was a tiny little vestigial tube, or somehow there was an opening created through some other medical issue, or maybe through surgery, some sort of like fistula type thing where the sperm was able to reach the ovary. And there are 10 medical, when I looked it up, at least last time I looked it up, there are 10 documented cases of failure ever. Does my severe fear of pregnancy and medical anxiety in general hold on to those 10 cases? Abso-fucking-lutely. Am I still pissed that I can't get a hysterectomy, and will I still get one in the future, specifically for sterilization over anything? Yes. But I'm an adult, I'm grown, I've lived with this anxious, self-ruminating doom ruminating mind for most of my life. I know, I knew once it was presented that this is what I could get, that I should go through with it, and that the logical conclusion would be to go about my life like I am not one of the 10 and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who it just happened to fail with. Statistically, it's not going to be you. Am I still going to struggle with this for the first couple of years after this procedure? Yeah, I am. Because, like I said, I'm an anxious little fuck, and I really can't get pregnant. If you do get pregnant after a bilateral salpingectomy, for full transparency, you can have an ectopic pregnancy, which is a medical emergency. And once again, I live in a state where abortion is illegal, even if you're, like, they're even weird about if you're, like, dying. So, yes, I do plan on getting out of here. But the logical conclusion is that I am a healthy, normal person, and I can tell you now that I had a competent surgical team. I should go about my life like this was 100% effective, because, like I said, it is between 0 and 0.33% failure rate. So if you are also an anxious person who really, really doesn't want to get pregnant, but this is the best you can do, I still think it's worth the time. And both to you and me, I say, let your anxiety go. Just let it go. Because statistically, it's not going to be us. If somehow it is, we'll figure it out. It's not going to be. So, when he said all of this, he was like, all right, so if you're sure, and it seems like you're sure, and I'm like, I've been sure my whole goddamn life. I was like, I've never wavered once on this. He said that I could sign a 30-day consent form that day, and that through their hospital system, since it is a permanent sterilization, even with that little bit of like, yeah, there's been a couple of documented cases, you are going forward accepting that this is irreversible and you will never be able to get pregnant and have kids, and that you are okay with it. And in order for them to be able to do something that permanent and intense, they need a full 30 days of your signed consent before they can do it. So he said, if you are sure, you can sign the 30-day consent form today, and then in 30 days, we'll call you back and you can get scheduled, and we do all of our tubals on a specific day of the month, and we get them all done so you can be scheduled for that next day that we do them. So I was like, yeah, because of course I could decide not to, but I was pretty sure that I had been convinced that it would be the second best option and that it would still suffice for now. So I signed it, and I did more research in the meantime, and before I knew it, I was getting a call, and it was scheduled for the 19th of June. So what I did to prepare was I trained a lot in the gym, knowing that I wouldn't be able to for a while. And I did a lot of core training. I would ease up on the core training in like the 48 to 72 hours before your procedure, so you don't go in with a bunch of muscle damage in your abs. I trained abs really hard the day right before. Don't do that. But I really locked in with a lot of core training and a lot of like really deep goblet squats and stuff like that I knew I wouldn't be able to do for a while. And just enjoying being active as much as I could, enjoying going on long walks. I wanted to swim before, since I won't be able to swim until my incisions are cleared, but I did not get a chance to, because our pool was being worked on at my apartment. But I'll be able to swim a lot sooner than I can lift heavy weights. So I'll get into more of that later. But so I did that. I pre-recorded a lot of stuff for my content that I make money off of. I built a lot of connections when it comes to that stuff. If you are interested in adult things, adult entertainment, I would definitely check out my Twitter. That's _Heldrake_, because I have been doing collabs and stuff, and it's really exciting and super cool, but it's adult stuff only. But yeah, I connected with a lot of people, hung out with a lot of people, went out and drank a little too hard and partied and clubbed the Saturday before, and it was going to be a Friday, so that gave me plenty of time to chill. And then, knowing that I would probably not drink for maybe a couple months, honestly, and kind of looking forward to it, honestly. A nice little cleanse. You don't have to go that long without drinking, by the way. I just kind of need it, personally. Ask your doctor if you're really concerned, but I would say at least the full recovery time, so anywhere between 2 and 6 weeks. But so I did all of that, and then I went. I did all of my laundry, made sure all of my sheets and bedding were completely 100% clean. I did. I went grocery shopping, and I got a lot of like post general anesthesia diet stuff that I didn't end up needing, but I got a lot of broth, Greek yogurt. I got some protein shakes, plenty of like chicken packets to make quick little like slap together sandwiches with good protein. I got some electrolyte drinks, a huge fat case of water, knowing I wouldn't be able to carry a case of water into my apartment for a while. And then the night of, they gave me specific instructions. They may give you different ones, but for example, I took a shower and then I didn't put on any deodorant or anything except for a little bit of plain moisturizing cream on some areas I had recently shaved. And then the morning of, I wasn't supposed to apply anything to my skin, couldn't eat or drink anything after midnight, of course. And then I could have a small sip of water with my medication. They told me I could take my amlodipine, which is a blood pressure medication that I actually take as a calcium channel blocker for my hands and feet Raynaud's syndrome. So I don't actually have high blood pressure. It's kind of like borderline high, especially for my age, but I don't take it for my blood pressure. And then I have been taking an antihistamine because my seasonal allergies have been trying to murder me. And they said that I could take it since it didn't have a decongestant. And then my testosterone shot was on Tuesday. They said that if I had been due to take it that day, I would have to hold it for at least a day. But it was fine that I took it, and I could take it the next Tuesday, which is actually today. I'll be taking my T shot a little bit later. But yeah, so I was approved to take that the morning of with a sip of water, and that was it. I was supposed to be told when my surgery time was the day before. They did not call me. I just knew my pre-op was at 9, and the day before I also got a MyChart notification that I had a new estimate, and I had done research, and this is important, I had done research about insurance coverage for a bilateral salpingectomy, and I saw that through the Affordable Care Act, any Medicare-related healthcare plan, which mine is, there's supposed to at least be one form of female sterilization for you covered, and a bilateral salp is included in that. Even if they try to argue that it's not, you can argue against it. So this is a big point of like, especially in case things change, because things are bad for people with uteruses, okay? If you are certain you do not want children, and it's very important for your emotional and physical safety that you don't get pregnant, if you're certain, I would never want someone to do this and regret it. That would make me really sad. I knew that would not be me. I was not worried at all that I was going to regret it. I just knew it was going to be a bitch to go through because I'm hyperactive, and we'll get into that. But please get it while you can. I don't want anyone to rush into surgery, but maybe start, if there's any questions you've had that have been holding you back, if there's conversations you need to have with people, maybe start having them, especially if you live in a southern state. Protect yourself. To me, my uterus has always been a threat to me because, I think I was 14 the first time my state tried to take away abortion health care from me, and from everyone with a uterus. And, yes, of course, there's birth control. If you've never been on both testosterone and birth control at the same time, I want you to shut the fuck up. I want you to try to be a normal, mentally regulated person. It wasn't that bad, but it was hard, especially without any other mental health medication. If I were to stay on birth control long term, I probably would have had to go back on mental health medication just to be able to handle the hormonal influence. And my form of birth control was low hormonal. But, anyways, don't rush into it. But if it's something that you've just been putting off because it's like, oh, it's surgery. First off, if you are in my situation where this is your first surgery ever, it's a really easy little one to give you some experience, and so that you can learn how you respond to general anesthesia and things like that, and to just give you a little practice. So yeah, anyways, it should be covered. So I was I'm just used to things going really bad and to having giant sudden medical expenses like the $1,800 that I owe for the heart stress test that I didn't need. My heart is fine, by the way. um, but I got a notification and I was at the gym doing my final workout and I was like ready to throw up between like sets of goblet squats and single leg RDLs. Um, and I fucking hate those. Uh, I logged in and then it was like your estimate is 0, and I was like, oh, fucking god. It was great to see that the night before. So I was like, dude, I don't even care what time my surgery is. I really hope I don't have to sit around waiting until like 3 o'clock to get operated on with no food or caffeine in my system, but we'll see. The morning of, I had a ride there and a ride home. Now, I'm going through this experience, someone who lives alone and did not have anyone stay with me. I don't really condone that. Please do try to have someone stay with you. But if you don't have any pre-existing conditions or anything like that, and you have local people who you can call if something happens, this is not the worst procedure to do that with. I did sign something saying someone was going to stay with me for 24 hours, and that was not what happened. I would recommend at least that. And I also knew that putting myself through going through my first surgery alone and isolated was gonna be asking for some mental health fuckery, but I knew it. And something that happened literally like a couple of days after I got my appointment scheduled was my state outlawed and completely banned any Medicare or Medicaid healthcare coverage for any gender transition related care. I will now be having to pay a lot more for my testosterone. And if I had any other surgeries scheduled, like top surgery or bottom surgery, I would probably be fighting it. And it was immediately enacted, emergency order, immediate effective, even for pre-authorized things that were going to be held. So I kind of sat around for a while, just waiting for a phone call, wondering what they filed my my procedure under it. Because if they mentioned anything gender related, I was like, I could be fucked. I could lose my healthcare coverage to this. They didn't. I'm sure they filed it under female sterilization. And if that makes you dysphoric, I'm sorry, but in this case, it saved my ass. So, yeah. And you know, it was at an OBGYN and stuff, so they probably just do that standard. But, yeah. So that was another thing where it was kind of like, it feels like my state is just closing down on me. And it might be kind of risky to heal from a surgery alone on your own. But like I said, I am really healthy and strong. And I do have some people who live kind of close. And it felt like I just need to get through this. And it's going to kind of suck a lot. But I need to get through it. And as far as procedures go, it's not that bad. So I chose to do it, but I would really highly recommend having someone. So I had someone who was going to take me there and take me home and make sure I was okay before she left. And she did have the whole rest of her day if I needed anything, to be clear. But the plan was to at least take me there and bring me home. I could not sleep for shit that night, even though I tried to go to bed early. I was waking up every 30 to 60 minutes. And I didn't feel stressed. It's not like my heart was beating hard or anything like that, but I just couldn't stay asleep. I'd just be like, and I'm like, it's annoying. So I just like happened to wake up again and look at my phone again, and I saw that the hospital was calling me around 7 o'clock, and she was like, hey, you're scheduled in at 9, could you possibly come in at 8:30? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'll give my ride a call. Also, I was never told what time my surgery is scheduled. Do you know? And she was like, it was actually scheduled for 11 a.m., but we had a cancellation, and that's why we want you in a little earlier because we might be able to get you in sooner. And I was like, say less. So I called my ride a whole bunch of times, and sweet girl, love you so much, Roxy. I love you so much. She had been up so late the night before. It took a second for her to answer. And then I was like, hey, can we like try to get there at 8:30? And she was like, yeah, yeah, I won't shower. I'm on my way. So she booked it to me in her cozy little jacket, and she was listening to like an audio book while we were on our way there, and it was a vibe. And then she's like, "Let me switch it to some music." But honestly, the audio book was a vibe. Anyways, I get there at 8:30. Super pissed that I can't drink water. I just want water. I want coffee. And then I'm sitting in the waiting room, and I'm like, I specifically want McDonald's hotcakes breakfast. And I think it's because this is really sweet, but my dad, anytime I had something big and exciting before work, or not work, school, if I was really nervous and just agitated and we had a little bit of time, he'd be like, "Do you want to go get some McDonald's for some hotcakes?" And I'd be like, "Eh." And it would just make my day better. So I think that's why I was like naturally craving it. And it was funny because I got to call my dad 2 days after my surgery for Father's Day, the 21st, and be like, "Hey, I'm not giving you any grandchildren ever." And he was like, "Yeah, I know. I'm on your social media. And also, like, I already knew that, but I'm glad it's going well." And then we caught up, and it was great. By the way, my dad is cool. But yes. Woo! So I was really tired, and that's when I started to get pretty lonely and depressed, sitting in the waiting room by myself. And I could have asked my friend to stay there with me, but I didn't. I'm not good at advocating for myself. But it definitely hit me that I was about to go through surgery, with mostly just a lot of remote support that I was already grateful for. But I was like, damn, this is. It would be really nice to have like a partner here with me or something. But especially if I was going to wake up confused and crying or something like that. So when they finally took me back, it was a little bit after 9. So, I got there early and just sat there for ages. They took me back there. I was wearing some really loose, comfy clothes. They had me immediately switch into a gown and hairnet and grippy socks, and then use they did not give me any antibacterial steri wipe things because I didn't see anyone until the day of, and they were like, "Have you used this?" And I was like, "No," and they were like, "It's fine, go do it." So I did the sanitizing my body thing with the wipes, and then got into my stuff. And then they sat down and they started going over all of everything with me, clarifying what I had eaten and drank, and all of my health history, my goals. Everyone did a really good job of gendering me. A couple people asked, other people saw it on my chart and knew. There was one nurse who struggled with it a little bit, but was extremely polite and respectful, and she was a really beautiful, like, Indian lady, with a pretty strong accent. So I think she just might not, she's just practicing. So she did a great job though. So everyone was really respectful. There was a nurse who saw my scars and was talking to me about self-harm because she did too, and she had tattoo cover-ups. And it's really sweet, but I've had so many awkward conversations with doctors and nurses about self-harm, and it always feels like it's going to turn into them checking to see if I'm still in therapy, even though all of mine are super old. I just always get kind of tense when they start talking to me about self-harm stuff, even though it was really sweet. She also talked to me about trans stuff. She had a trans best friend, and they had just recently operated on a trans guy who, because of medical issues, he was able to get a full hysterectomy, and I was like, I want one. I was just sitting there pissed and jealous. But it was great. It was just a little awkward. So I was tense at first, but then I started to get really excited, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, this is gonna suck, but if this goes well and it's successful, this is the only thing I might ever need, especially if I don't end up with any medical problems with my uterus. Honestly, if I successfully don't get pregnant for a couple years, maybe I won't get a hysterectomy. Because it really, for me, is about, there's some cancer history in my family, and then mostly just the sterilization part. So, in my head, I'm like, this might be the only time I have to go under the knife if I take really good care of myself for another 5 or 10 years. And I don't have to worry about birth control now. Holy shit. I can just have fun and be safe in other ways, but not worry about that. And so I was starting to wave my hands and be all excited and stuff. And then all of a sudden, they're doing the last couple things, and I'm getting an IV in my hand, and they're like, "Oh, there's one person going under right now." And then you're after them, and I was like, what? And it was getting exciting. Of course, the IV was cold, but I knew that would be the case. And then they wheeled me back there, and The anesthesiologist was back there, and then one other person. It immediately felt overstimulating in like a movie. Big OR, big, pretty, fancy, nice OR. They have me lay down with my butt out. I'm chilling. I don't care. Uh, the lady had to like cover me while I was walking because I was just like, yeah, I can have my ass out. And she was like, actually, you can't. She was like, let's get past these doors and then I'll let you go. I'm out here like trying to show my ass. Sorry, y'all. But yeah, they get me back there, and the anesthesiologist, he's like, all right, so I'm going to, we're giving you some Tylenol and ibuprofen before we even begin, so we get a head start on the pain management, and then I'm going to give you an anti-anxiety medicine, and then I'll start to give you some anesthesia and stuff. And they like take their time a little bit. They put some warm blankets over me. Also, so I peed for a pregnancy test. And then right before we went back, she was like, how long has it been since you peed? And I was like, it's been like 30 minutes. And she was like, go pee again, because I want to be able to tell your doctor that your bladder is definitely empty, so we don't have to put a catheter in you. The hospital was so nice, except the bathroom was so little and tiny and looked like Saw. And I was nervous. So my pelvic floor was like, which is not normal for me. But it was like, and I could tell I was struggling to pee everything out, especially because it was also cold. And I was like, I really, really tried to squeeze it out, and I really thought I got everything. So he puts this anti-anxiety medicine in me, and number one, it does the complete opposite for me. I do not like being suddenly under the influence. There's a reason I like alcohol. It's very easy to control, depending on how much I eat and what I drink and how much. Like, it's very controlled, and it's always kind of the same experience. Whatever he put in me, it's like a 5 to 15 second turnover time. And all of a sudden, my brain feels completely different and my connection to my body feels completely different. And I don't fucking like that. And I start to almost have a panic attack. So it did the complete opposite for me. And in my head, I was like, please, I hope they start to fucking put me to sleep soon, because I can't be awake for this. I've been so stressed out, and this is going to be what pushes me over, is the goddamn anxiety medication. That's just me to a T. But luckily they did start to put me to sleep, and my bladder emptied. I peed the bed. So make sure you really try to relax that pelvic floor before you go back there. I'm sure they're totally used to it, but I felt immediately, I was like, fuck, they're gonna pull the sheets back and be like, damn it. I don't think they put a catheter in me, though. I think they're probably like, well, the rest of it's gone. Yeah, like, as I was falling asleep, I was like, it's warm down there. Yeah, sorry, OR people. And then I woke up, and it did feel like time had passed. It wasn't like I blinked and then I was awake. No, it felt like I had been asleep for a little bit, and it felt really hard to wake up. Like, I just didn't want to, and I would like open my eyes and then close them. I was not upset. I was in a little bit of pain. Definitely felt like people had shoved things into my abdomen. I will show you my incisions in a little bit. They're not pretty. Okay, I'll just let you know. It did feel like I had been cut open and worked on. But it wasn't, it felt like I had been cut open and worked on a couple days ago. Or maybe like a day or two. And then I was not upset or angry or scared. I was chatty. I was cordial. I was able to like have really cohesive sentences with the person who was there with me in the recovery area. She did ask if I wanted some pain medicine, and I did consent to it. So I got a dose of fentanyl. She's like, all right, so this is like one small dose of fentanyl. I was like, what? Which I knew that, but I did consent to it, because in that moment I was like, dude, there's no reason to be tough right now. Like, you just got operated on. Just take the pain medicine. And pretty quickly she was like, all right, you seem pretty with it. Do you think you're ready to move and stuff? And I was like, yeah. I was not nauseous at all. They put me in a wheelchair to go to the final recovery area. Not nauseous. None at all. I was like, cool, this is lit. However, when they brought me over to that recovery area, they checked my blood pressure and they were like, drink this. And she was like, your blood pressure is like pretty freaking low right now. If you were any lower, I would make you stay. She was like, do you have a way to check your blood pressure at home? And I was like, yeah, I've got a cuff. And she was like, make sure you check it. Stand up pretty slow today. And I was like, oh, I take a blood pressure medication, but it's not actually for blood pressure. I take it as a calcium channel blocker. And she was like, oh, okay. Well, maybe tomorrow before you take it, check your blood pressure. And if it's still low, maybe hold off for a day or two. It should come back up, but if it doesn't, call your doctor. So basically, I learned from this, if I go through another medical procedure, I'll probably just skip the amlodipine the day of, because I did skip it the next day, just in case, even though my blood pressure did look like it was back to normal. I chose to skip it, just in case, to be safe. And my Raynaud's did come back and get a little worse, especially with the inflammation and stress of surgery. But it was not intolerable, so I think it would be better to just skip it the day of next time. So it makes sense. I'm taking blood pressure medication when I don't need to. So it just made my blood pressure too low, because both anesthesia and the pain medication can lower your blood pressure. So, but she said I was good to go, to just be careful. And honestly, I think the anesthesia plus the low blood pressure was what just felt worse the first day. So they put in a prescription for prescription painkillers, Colace, to keep my bowel movements going and to stimulate one, because while you're under anesthesia, everything gets paralyzed. And then a prescription strength ibuprofen. My ride, I felt good enough to ask my ride to go ahead and go to Walmart and get it. I did feel very woozy and tired. But I felt like if I was careful and I walked slow, that I could go ahead and go pick up those medications. I also needed Tylenol, because I already had ibuprofen, but I needed some Tylenol to bounce back and forth between the two. And I also grabbed a body armor while I was there, because I was like, I feel like I need electrolytes, nutrients, and more fluid in me, because I normally drink so much water. So it, by the way, I got there at 8:30. I left at like 12:18. That's how soon I left. But I had an uncomplicated procedure. The only thing of note was my lower blood pressure, which was just like, stand up slowly and get back to eating and drinking. My surgical team had very different post-diet instructions than my anesthesiologist. The surgeon was fun, and she was like, as long as you aren't nauseous, eat what you want to tonight, as long as it's not like a double cheeseburger, nothing too fatty. But you can eat something nice and just get back to your normal diet and just take the Colace. Anesthesiologist was like, be careful, and gave me standard anesthesiologist advice. I was like, I will meet y'all in the middle, and I will have one test snack. This was what I chose to do, as someone who seemed to handle the anesthesia very well. Maybe be careful. But I planned on taking both Colace and Miralax for a few days at least, to keep things going, and I was like, let's just find out. But I wanted to go ahead and get started on that fluid replenishment. And so I got back home, and I am someone who, when I really don't feel well, I want to be alone. So I kind of shooed my friend away pretty quick. Day one was very much so just like, honestly, it was easy, because I could tell, like my energy levels were completely drained out of me from the anesthesia and the procedure and everything. So it was very easy to mother hen myself. I set things up a lot more dramatically than I needed to. I thought I wasn't going to be allowed to bend or squat down for a long time. They were mostly just like, take it easy today because your blood pressure is fucked up. But otherwise, like, just listen to your body and be careful. But anyways, so I set up like a bunch of like movies and like my PS2 over here, like really close, so I don't have to bend down and stuff, and I can just stay in bed. And I set up like a snack. I had like one of my stools with a bunch of snacks over here, so that I didn't have to like get up and go get snacks. Honestly, that was nice for the first day, but you kind of only need it day 1 or 2, depending on your recovery. If you get multiple procedures, because some people get other stuff along with a bilateral salp, you might have a slower recovery. Just so you know. And in general, like I said, I'm pretty healthy, so I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna bounce back like really fast. But yeah, it was a lot of hanging out in bed. I had a snack as soon as I got home of primarily liquids and then some saltines to test. Went completely fine. Took a little nappy nap. Woke up. They told me I could have coffee that afternoon, so I had coffee and goldfish crackers, which is like my favorite afternoon snack, and like a protein bar. Smart? No. Fun? Yes. And then that night, I had a weird dinner. I had a tuna sandwich because I was like, I need my protein. But then I also bought a bunch of instant mashed potatoes because I thought those would be good if I was having to stick to soft foods for a little bit. And I was craving mashed potatoes. So I had sweet potatoes, microwave sweet potatoes, and a tuna sandwich. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, and like I said, I wasn't able to really do much. I wasn't able to focus on video games and enjoy them. I wasn't able to work on any crafts or projects. I answered people when I felt like I could make a sentence, but that wasn't often. And I didn't feel bad about it. I was just like, cocoon. I felt like a safe little cocoon. I had looked at my incisions like right after and was like, whoa, that's so cool. They look so good. Yeah, of course they look good when they aren't healing at all and they're just chilling there. Yeah, I didn't have anything exciting happen that day. I looked it up and it was like, oh, okay, the fentanyl should have left my system pretty quickly. The Tylenol and ibuprofen takes like 6 hours-ish. So around 6 p.m., I was like, okay, everything should be out of my system. I'm in a completely manageable amount of pain. It feels like I got operated on days ago. But I felt like my whole system inflammation was getting crazy. My hands and face were swelling up, and all of my recent gym injuries and even my Raynaud's and stuff were getting really spicy. And I was like, I want to take an ibuprofen specifically actually for inflammation to just kind of bring everything down. So of course I ate with it because I've been having some tummy problems, and that's why this was the last dose of pain medication I had, and I don't necessarily recommend it. I think for comfort and lowering my stress levels, I think I should have for day 2 and 3 as well. But I've just been having some tummy issues. I didn't want to have to go back and forth between ibuprofen and Tylenol and stuff. And I was like, I can just like hang out and relax and just... Also, another reason why I chose to be much lighter on pain management was also because I'm so hyperactive. I normally get 15 to 20,000 steps every day, train 4 days in the gym a week. It's really hard for me to only do 4 days. I used to be 5 days religiously, and I work, I'm always on my feet at work. I'm so hyperactive and I move so much, and I'm so used to constantly using my core for all sorts of movements and balance. And strength that I was like, honestly, I kind of like being able to feel it because I can feel when I'm doing something wrong. So, and it's all like stuff that you would expect, like mostly like getting out of bed. Getting out of bed was weird the first few days, and it's still a little weird now. Getting out of bed, going from sitting to standing, twisting my body, things like that. You'll feel it. It's all very intuitive. And nothing ever felt severe. I would just feel it pulling a bit and then back off, which is what I wanted. So that's cool. Day 2 was very similar. I had a little more energy. I could walk around my apartment a little bit more, do some more like genuine walking, not just shuffling to the bathroom. Once again, kind of just had my normal diet. Still felt very mother hen towards myself. Honestly, I wasn't upset that I was going through it alone at this point. I was chilling. Was a little bored. I was starting to get a little annoyed that I couldn't seem to focus on video games or anything, and I was just kind of swapping between movies and doom scrolling. But I was still doing okay. Day 3, once again, I was able to do a little bit more. I think I went and sat outside for a little bit. At this point, I was seeing that, like, oh, my incisions aren't going to be pretty forever, and my right one kind of looks like shit. And also, I have a little foot of one of my dissolvable stitches just poking out of it, which can happen sometimes. If I'm worried about it, I'll call my doctor. I'm not really supposed to cut it off myself. Right now, it's not pulling on anything. It's just there, so I don't know. But yeah, I was like, oh, there's something poking out of it. It looks worse than the other one. I think they did more work on that side. You know, it was definitely starting to be like, oh, I do want to like take pictures of these every day and kind of track them and make sure they're okay. Cause like, yeah, things happened to me. At this point, they had told me, I got different information from my team about whether or not I was going to have something placed in my cervix or not. I'm pretty sure I did, because my post-op paperwork mentioned it. I think they were operating on the assumption they wouldn't need to, and then for some reason with my anatomy, they needed to, because what they do is they insert a thing so they can manipulate where your organs are. Just like this. But they manipulate where your organs are so they can get to what they need. And my post-op paperwork mentioned all that stuff about like no sexual activity, tampons, or anything like that until I'm cleared because something was in there and my body is healing. And they told me I need to wear a pad for a few days, but everything felt normal and I wasn't bleeding at all. And I was like, huh. I mean, I'm still gonna listen to that post-op work, but to be continued. Yeah, so day 3, I think day 3 was when I got a couple of pelvic cramps, though. And I was like, but they were very mild. Night of day 3, I got the hubris of man, and I had a single can of diet soda. Don't fucking do that. Wait a full week before you touch anything carbonated, and I would recommend doing it earlier in the day so you're gonna walk it off. Walk it off if you get gassy, because I thought most of my CO2 gas that they pump you full of was dissipated by day 1 or 2. Honestly, it kind of peaked around day 3 and 4. And basically, they pump you full of CO2 gas so they can get to what they need to, and a lot of it will kind of push up into your diaphragm. You can get shoulder pain. I did get some, but I was already getting shoulder pain from my shoulder injury because I'm having to sit around, and that's the worst thing you can do for a gym injury, and I already knew that would be the case. So, my shoulders have hurt, but I can't tell if it's the gym or the CO2. So you can get some shoulder pain from it, but of course, also you can get really gassy and farty, and I ended up writhing in pain. The worst pain I was in the whole time was just me farting a bunch from 12 p.m. to about 5 a.m. that night until I could finally sleep. Don't do it to yourself. And I was too tired to go sit up and play video games and let myself fart it out. This is super attractive, I know. But anyways, that was the worst pain I went through, and I was thrashing around so violently and pacing really aggressively too, and doing some yoga poses and stuff that I probably shouldn't have been doing yet. I'm just glad my incisions survived. When I woke up and my incisions still looked better than they had a little bit the day before, I was like, okay, I think we're in the clear, because I just did a bunch of shit I was not supposed to, probably. But I was hurting! Don't do that. No diet soda. Don't fucking do it. It's not worth it for the delicious taste of 0 sugar cherry 7-Up. It's really not. So, carbonation. Biggest thing. I was also successful with having a bowel movement the day after, and then day 3, I think. And then today. So kind of every other day, which honestly is not abnormal for me, particularly when I'm stressed. I've got a slow bowel. Probably from the years of the eating disorder. Don't do that to yourself. You will never be the same. But was really happy about that. The first 2 were not how I would like them to be, considering all the medicine I was on, but I think I was still clearing out from before I was on any medicine, honestly. Because now things are very much like, oh yes, I have been taking medicine. It's a lot easier to go. But I've had a lot of experience with managing constipation in my time, so I was surviving. And I did my best to manage it with both diet and medicine. Sure. Day 4 yesterday was kind of the hardest day, even though it was one of the most productive ones besides today. I drove myself to work to buy some nails, not these, but some different ones, and to say hi and to just test out driving, and it was okay. I drive around in a car with no AC right now, so I felt like shit and I was dizzy, but I have been anyways, even when I'm healthy. So, but it was very overwhelming. I was so exhausted from just going and walking around my job really quick. So I was really tired from that. I did my first little bit of makeup and an outfit and stuff, and then I, around 5 p.m. I broke down and I started crying because there were so many hours left in the day, and I wanted the day to fucking be over already. Starting day 2, it would be 8 p.m. and I'd be like, okay, so is it over yet? There's nothing to do. I'm fucking bored. And it really set in that it's it could be 4 to 6 weeks before I'm lifting again. Honestly, it could be a little bit longer for really, really heavy braced lifts, depending on my doctor's preferences and any complications, and I really don't want to risk a hernia. So if it was even up to 6 to 8 weeks or something like that, I would rather do that than risk a hernia. But it was really hitting that I still have to eat and take care of myself and take care of my body, even if I'm not training, no matter how stressed I am. And a lot being home so much just around food. I was dealing with a combination of a lot of food noise which is a consequence. Even if you get restrictively obsessed with food, sometimes you end up with horrible chronic food noise. So I was dealing with both food noise and obsession. I would eat and then immediately be wondering what I was going to eat next, and also urges to restrict since I wasn't lifting. And I did a really good job of just sticking to my guns and eating mostly healthy food and then a couple of comfort things. I actually got the McDonald's breakfast that I was craving. I haven't had that in 2.5 years. Holy shit. Was it worth it? Kind of not. My inflammation in my body felt worse afterwards. But, I kicked the craving, and I probably won't buy it again. I don't even know if ever, but it was a nostalgic craving, and I sated it for the emotional experience, and but mostly stuck to like really good high protein, high fiber meals with lots of good micronutrients and stuff. And I've been doing the thing, but it's been hard, especially when my body is already busy, taxed with healing from surgery. This mental health shit, there's less energy to fight that. So it really hit me yesterday, where I was like, damn, it's gonna be a while before I feel okay, huh? And yeah, I got really depressed, and I really, really dropped down low. And then around 10 p.m. last night, I got my first zoomies. I got the zoomies, and I went on a walk around 10 p.m. So it was nice and cool outside, and it was just dark and pretty. And I wasn't able to do the full length of walk I normally do, but it was close, and my incisions area and surgical sites got a little sore, but not too bad. Also, starting yesterday, I did start to get some pretty notable uterine and vaginal cramping. I feel like I'm on my period, and starting yesterday, I did start to see some blood. Very, very light amounts, almost nothing. And I did notice a little bit of itching here and there, so I'm keeping an eye on it. There is a small but existing risk of like a vaginal infection from what they do, which is why it's so important to not put anything in until you're cleared to, and I am strictly adhering to that. But of course, I'm sure there's still a chance that something could still go wrong in the meantime, so I'm keeping an eye on it. But it really is like almost no blood. But the cramps, holy crap. Yesterday there was a moment where I was like, dude, it feels like I'm giving the birth that I just spent so much time and energy preventing. But yes, I am getting pretty intense uterine cramping. I feel like I'm on a period when I haven't had a period, thanks to testosterone, in like 3 years. And but I'm surviving. That definitely made me a little crankier too. But it's also like really good motivation to like really, really obey that. My body is making it known that it's fixing stuff in many places. So thank you. But I got zoomies, went on a long walk, came back, didn't feel too bad afterwards. So it was a very up and down day. And then I had like this conversation with someone where I was like so energetic and engaged and emotive, when I, have been going through periods of time, even today, where I can't message people back. My brain is soup. Excuse me. But yeah, so today is day 5. I was able to run some errands. I replaced my jewelry because they did ask me to take out my piercings, and they all stayed in. I was so glad, but when I put them back in when I got home, or they didn't close up on me. When I put them in when I got back home, I didn't do the best job. And the day after, somehow, all of a sudden, like, after I ate, I took a picture of myself, and I was like, wait, where's this one? It was gone. I think I swallowed the bar. I don't know. It's just gone. So, I mean, I'll keep an eye around my apartment. It'll probably turn up, but I also might have swallowed it. So there's that. Surviving that. But I was able to do that. I did a full face of makeup. My back got so sore from doing it. My back is getting really sore, one, from being sedentary. That always happens to me. But I think it's also because I'm not able to engage my core as much. So that's just what happens. And that's why getting a strong core and squatting and deadlifting is great for you. And, it's just one of those situations where it's one of those many times where I'm like, this is why I love strength training so much, because I don't live with back pain like most people do most of the time. I have a lot of other muscular pains going on, like in my pecs and my shoulders and stuff. That is all gym injury stuff that is being flared up by overall body inflammation and having to sit around. So it's not stuff that you will probably experience, but my shoulders feel horrible. My pecs feel tight and painful and awful. Sensations that you will probably go through, like I said, cramping, a little bit itchy, because there's more discharge than normal. And I think also I removed my NuvaRing the day of my procedure. That's what they had me do. I wanted to be protected right up before then because I had some sex earlier in the week. Of course I did. I was about to not be able to for a while. So, but yes, they had me remove it the day of. So my body's probably also getting used to no longer having that there. But there's that. My incisions have hurt. The area around them has hurt. My right incision is starting to get super itchy. Oh my god. Itchy. Belly button one has been pretty itchy a couple times too. I've heard that the belly button incision gets really fucking itchy, so we'll see. I'll show you them now. And then I guess I'll kind of talk about my plans going forward with gym stuff and things. But let's see. This is going to be a little graphic, not too much. They also shaved my stomach. So if you have a beautiful hairy stomach like I did, you don't get to have a beautiful hairy stomach. I've got some freaking ingrown hairs too from it. I'm mad. But this guy's kind of ugly. He looks a little more open than the other. Is itchy. Will probably scar worse. This guy's a lot skinnier of an incision and looks a lot nicer. No stitches poking out. And then this guy is fine. I already had a belly button piercing scar right here, so, and I have an extremely hairy stomach, so you won't be able to see that shit. Unfortunately, my hair doesn't quite grow out this way, so, yeah, I do think I might get some sort of tattoos over them at some point, and I will probably actually use tattoo or scar cream on them, even though, as you can see, I have a lot of other scars. I just don't like that they're kind of asymmetrical and just dots. I have some dot scars on me that are like from cigarettes and stuff like that. Don't do that, by the way. They're like the ugliest scars to me personally, so I won't be surprised if I decide to actually care for these scars and maybe even possibly look into tattooing over them one day. But that's just me. I will still look down at them and be like, oh my god, yes, I did this for myself. So yeah, it's been 5 days. Dealing with going through this as someone who's really been struggling with health anxiety the past 6 months has also been a challenge, but it's a welcome challenge. I think I'll be a lot more secure in my body and trusting my health to tell me when something is wrong instead of me just assuming something is wrong once I'm through this. Especially because, in my mind, I kind of thought I would have the most list of symptoms day 1 or 2, and honestly, I feel like I have definitely the most annoying symptoms now between like the cramping, the bleeding, and the itching. I am keeping an eye on it. I'm keeping out for any of the red flag symptoms. I just don't have any red flag symptoms currently. I was probably just a little too active. Unsurprisingly, I knew that would probably be the case. And for whatever reason, I'm getting I'm getting a delayed response from like my uterus and stuff. Apparently the cramping can even just be from the irritation of the uterus from having the fallopian tubes cut away from it. So, yeah, I've also had like some various pains in like my low back, my kind of groin area, just random weird ones. I have already had a little bit of like kind of nerve reconnection feelings in a couple spots in my abdomen, so that's good. Even today, just walking around, stopping by Walmart to buy more nails, to keep myself busy since I can't lift weights anyways. I will randomly get dizzy. I will randomly get shaky and tired and have to sit down and rest. As someone who just used to do crazy, massive, high volume, intense, strong workouts Just doing my makeup and doing some chores has me pretty wiped. So it's you know, it's a double-edged sword of like, it's gonna make me super grateful for being active and strong, but in the meantime it does feel a little scary and vulnerable to be someone who really does have to fucking rest. Like, I go back to work tomorrow, and if it doesn't go well, I can take more time off. But even my doctor said that I should have taken, 5 days off should be enough. But I'll actually have to rest on my breaks at work instead of like going on long brisk walks and stuff. I'll probably actually have to sit down. Wow, resting on your breaks, novel. So there's that. And yeah, I think my biggest complaint so far is that they, me sitting there like all general anesthesia'd out, they were like, all right, we did not schedule your post-op. Call back and do that later. So I've been calling for days. It's Tuesday. I still couldn't get a hold of them today. And, it's at least going to be 2 weeks out, if not 3 or something like that. I want it to be sooner because I want to be cleared to do the shit I want to do as soon as possible. But, I'm still trying to get a hold of them from that's my biggest complaint, is like, why didn't you set that up before I left? I was fucked up on anesthesia. So going forward, I have to wait to be cleared to bathe, swim, have sex, and that will happen before, and then I'll probably also be cleared to lift between 10 and 20 pounds around that time. And then I will probably have to wait longer, most likely, to lift heavy in the gym. 4 to 6 weeks seems standard. It does sound like some people take longer to really fully avoid a hernia. So I will be talking to my surgeon in depth about it at post-op because I really want to do the correct thing. I want to do this one and done, And like I said, now that I've really accepted that the more I dig into the statistics, I should just be able to live my life under the assumption I am fully sterilized and that I'm safe. This should be the only thing I have to do like this for a long time, especially now that I've been through it. I'm so happy. I'm so proud of myself. It's not over, but I'm super happy. And I just want to lock in. My body image is all over the place. It is hard to eat sometimes when I'm just sitting around, but even if I did actually check my weight today, and my plan is to check it a week from today, and to give myself grace these first 2 weeks, I would like to not continue gaining weight after next week, ideally, because it would just be body fat. Honestly, I'm not training until I can. So ideally, I would like to stabilize at least. It's okay if it happens, though, because I just keep telling myself, however long I have to wait, even if it's 6 to 8 weeks or something like that, until I can lift heavy, even if it was some reason longer, I've got all rest of the year to get jacked, and I now have the whole rest of my life to not get fucking pregnant. Oh my god, I'm so happy. So yeah, definitely like sometimes I will be like, fuck, I really got myself into this. It's gonna be like a month of shit before things feel slightly normal again. But it is giving me opportunities to process a lot of things that I've been too hyperactive. I would never sit long enough to process certain things going on with me. So it's given me opportunities for that. It has shown people's true colors. There are some people who have shown up for me in ways that I was really surprised by, and I'm building some really awesome, deep connections with people. And there are some people who were kind of dicks, and cool, now I know. So there's a lot of good things about it. But it is like, I went through surgery, and I went through it living alone, and it has been a little difficult, but I'm doing pretty good. My shoulders hurt so bad, so I need to do some yoga and physical therapy stretches after a nice long shower. But yes, going forward, I'm just gonna fully wait until I'm cleared to lift weights. Take this time. Once I feel better too, I'm really gonna lock in with physical therapy stuff for my pinched nerve and stuff up in my neck. And really work on mobility. And I'm hoping once I'm cleared, since I'll have to come back and train light anyways, I'll do some really basic workouts at first, maybe even like body weight and machine focused. I would really like to do a linear strength progression, actually. I just want to try. My nerve might not let me, but I want to try it. So even if it literally means starting off with squatting with just the barbell, I'm down. So that's kind of the plan, is to strip everything down, come back really careful. I will probably do an updated video on coming back to training after a bilateral salp if you're interested. Which would also be applicable to some other procedures. But like I said, this one is like super small and tiny. So if you need anything else, if you get like your ovaries removed while you're at it, definitely if you get a laparoscopic hysterectomy, your recovery time is going to be longer. It's going to be more difficult and just different. So this one really is, they just go in there and they take my tubes, and I ain't got tubes anymore. No baby tubes. So if you have any specific questions, please let me know. If anything spectacular happens, I'm sure it would just be I did too much too soon and my body got pissed off and they had to fix something. But I'm doing my best to be really good. And eventually this big manic brain of mine will be able to hyper-focus on video games and stuff like that, and projects, and like drawing and things like that. I just find that I'm not diagnosed with ADHD or whatever. I don't have an explanation for why this is, but something about the socially acceptable STEM session that is 2 hours in the gym, I'm able to focus if I do that. If I don't, my brain is... I still can't get myself to like sit down and play video games for a few hours like anyone would do in this situation. I really do just like task swap for hours at a time until the evening when I can kind of lock in for a little bit. But I'll eventually figure out how to regulate these brain meats without killing myself in the gym. I'm just not there yet. But yes, any specific questions, let me know. Good luck if you decide to do the same thing. Like I said, I would recommend take some pain medication at least day 2 and 3, just if anything to keep your nervous system nice and quiet and calm. The pain completely, because the stress of pain, I started dealing with a lot of like really intense high heart rate around like day 2 and 3, and it was probably honestly partially unmanaged pain that I wasn't even super aware of because I have a really high pain tolerance. So don't do that to yourself. It's also the CO2, it can do that too. But yeah, my biggest recommendation is don't you fucking touch a carbonated drink. And take pain medication for a couple days. I would recommend having someone stay with you for a day or two if possible. Definitely someone you love and trust. But yeah, I think that's what I would change if I could go back. But otherwise, honestly, not too big of an L all around. And like I said, I really have settled into like, this sucks right now, but like, I don't have to worry about birth control ever again. Oh, fuck yeah. So, yeah, just let me know if you have questions. Wish me luck. My belly button itches!